This episode is brought to you by Prime Video. In the small town of Holland, Michigan, nothing is ever what it seems. Behind the tulip festivals and pretty houses lay dark secrets that threaten to tear a marriage apart. Nicole Kidman stars in this darkly twisted thriller about a wife and mother whose quest to uncover her husband's secrets may get her more than she bargained for. Holland, streaming on Prime Video March 27th.
Are your ulcerative colitis symptoms proving difficult to manage? Tremfya guselkumab can help you manage the cycle of UC symptoms. At 1 year, many patients taking Tremfya achieved clinical remission, and some patients also achieved endoscopic remission. Individual results may vary. Tremfya is a prescription medicine used to treat adults with moderately to severely active ulcerative colitis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Ask your doctor if Tremfya can help you manage the cycle of UC symptoms. Call 1-800-526-7736 to learn more, or visit tremfyaradio.com.
Empower. Claire is practicing her breathing for her upcoming yoga retreat in Bali. Has she ever done yoga before? No. But Claire worked with Empower on her savings and investment strategy. She got good at money, so she can be a little bad. Empower. Invest well, live a little. Join our 19 million customers today at empower.com.
Past performance is not indicative of future returns. Investing involves risk. You may lose money. Advisory services are provided for a fee by Empower Advisor Group, LLC, EAG, a registered investment advisor with the Securities and Exchange Commission. Om Namaste.
It's really cool.
Bonjour, hello, and welcome to the Rosbif Rugby Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things French rugby, the top 14, Pro de National, the French national team, the towns, cities, bars, food, and pretty much everything else in between. I'm Richard, and I'm joined as ever by Rob, who is opting for, if I'm not mistaken, is that some Bordeaux Bègles kit this evening?
Yeah, and the Toulouse hat. Given that is where Leicester Tigers will be playing their away games in the Champions Cup this year, both those grounds. So thought I would, just embrace that by celebrating the fact that we've got a couple of great away days as Tigers fans.
Yeah, so you once wore a Leicester shirt to a Harlequins game against Montpellier.
Yeah.
How does it work if you go to either Bordeaux or Toulouse? Do you like maybe take along the Bayonne kit, maybe an old extra shirt?
Yeah, but I'll be supporting my team there. I'll be supporting my team, so I'll be wearing Tiger shirt. Like when Mathieu Jalibert booed me in the street when he spotted me in that Tiger shirt
I'd forgotten about that.
Back in 2021.
That's actually a pretty good story, isn't it?
Yeah, I was just knocking around the streets of Bordeaux waiting for our friend to arrive after his absolute stinker at the airport. This was the game that Leicester won, actually, away in Bordeaux. But just on the morning of the game, just minding my own business, strolling around, kind of slightly lost, slightly kind of away with the fairies. And then someone just shouts at me across the street, "Boo!" And I've obviously looked at them and then... looked again, and it was Mathieu Jalibert with Guido Petit, which was kind of
what a duo,
which was quite surreal, really. And then kind of going through the town, I was kind of like, if I bumped into Leicester fans, it was kind of, well, don't worry, Jalibert's not playing. I've just seen him on the street.
What I remember about that as well, which seems ridiculous, but when you put a message in a WhatsApp group with a load of us who went to university together saying, I just got booed by Mathieu Jalibert. And for some reason in my head, he like jumped out from behind a bin and gone boo and tried to.
It wasn't that. It wasn't a million miles. Maybe your view of it as like, impacted my memory of it. But it can't have been that far away from being like that. It was genuinely just like completely out of the blue.
Outstanding. Yeah, I'd forgotten about that one. Well, I think we're going to talk a bit about some of the fixtures since they all dropped within the space of 3 days, I think. So yeah, plenty of scurrying around on Sky Scanner, plenty of marrying up some of the other things going on in France to some of those fixtures, but we'll get into that. Do you want to start with the internationals from the weekend, the last test in Buenos Aires?
Yeah. Very cool, bright blue stadium. I enjoyed that a lot.
A cool stadium, the bright, really in your face, the bright blue,
Yeah. And
like a sort
incredibly steep.
very steep, very very sort of Olympic swimming pool vibes, but with a rugby ground in it. Pretty cool though.
Yeah.
Yeah, looks wicked. We thought not particularly unexpected. We thought there'd be a bit of a response from Argentina, and they seemed pretty revved up for it
They were
throughout.
electric, weren't they?
Yeah, they were very
It was
good.
it was a belter of a game. Has to be said.
It was very
Um,
similar. I know we touched on it when we were talking before this. It was quite similar in terms of scoreline and ebb and flow to those. There's something clearly about the summer tests in Argentina, like that series when England went out there and all the games were like 31, 36 or whatever it was. And this was pretty much the same.
yeah, it was back and forth, wasn't it?
Mm.
It was interesting seeing the turnaround. Matera's 100th test, which is pretty cool actually. He looks even more nails with the kind of mullet that
The
he's rocking at
mullet,
the moment.
the mullet is
Um,
tough.
yeah, but that's the sort of emotional drive that they seem to kind of thrive on, just something to really rev them up. And they were just ferocious. And like some of their first phase
Mm.
backs moves off lineouts were brilliant. Yeah, Matera was brilliant. Oviedo with our kind of French hats on. The guys, I remember when I went to Perpignan, they were saying that Oviedo was kind of their best player of the season at Perpignan, and he's a brilliant, brilliant player. He got through so many carries and tackles on Saturday. Um, and Ruiz, his kind of fellow USAP player, who had to play quite a lot of game time in the end. I think when did Montoya go off? He went off after about 20 minutes, didn't
Yeah, it was early, wasn't it? He looked absolutely distraught as well.
he? Yeah. Yeah, that was like a broken rib, which as a Tigers fan, let's hope that's a short injury. Especially with his relationship with Checker at Tigers. But yeah, yeah, Argentina were completely different. It was the scrum was much better than last week. The line out I thought was exceptional, both attack and defense, and the centres just clicked a bit more in attack and defense. And I think some of those first phase tries, I was trying to spot I mean, we're not kind of Austin Healy levels of analysis, are we, in terms of being able to read defenses and explain stuff? But one of the first phase tries, I think it was the Santi Carreras one off the line out in the 22.
It's a lovely try.
France had switched. Hastoy was actually in the 13, effectively the 13 channel, because they had Frisch at 10 defending either something off the back of the line out from like an Oviedo or a Matera, or the short line from Chocobares. Then you had Gaeton at effectively 12. And then the pinch point was actually ended up being, because of the wraparound, ended up being a Hastoy at 13. And you wonder if they hadn't worried or overcompensated for the defense, whether, or defending the kind of big ball carry on the narrow line, whether, between them, Gaeton and Frisch would have shut that down a bit better. But I think it's so well executed that I think Hastoy actually doesn't do that much wrong. He kind of gets slightly caught out. But that was the one thing I noticed. Because largely I thought Gaeton and Frisch were brilliant again. Like It just seemed to
No,
be
very
Gaetan
good.
seems to be in the way. He just seems to be getting in the way the whole time in a good way. Like
In a
he's
good
not
way.
making dominant hits or smashing rucks, but he's just there, like in rucks or ready to pounce or making the tackle or wrapping someone up or blocking a passing line.
Yeah, it's that sort of it's a real sports cliche, isn't it? But I think I can't remember one of the Poe players last year, maybe the season before, was interviewed. I assume it was probably on the French Rugby podcast, and they were just saying he's got that kind of knack of being where the ball needs to be, or where the ball's going to end up. And yeah, he's a really good reader of the game. Just finish on like, I mean, I completely agree with everything you said. I thought Argentina looked not just powerful, but really slick and fast, and like does just sometimes seem to click into gear for them. I thought they brought Chocobaras in, didn't they? From the
Yeah,
previous test. He's had what a brilliant end to the season he's had. Like,
yeah,
a little bit of a, I mean, don't get me wrong, like he's played plenty of minutes at Toulouse, but kind of squad off the bench predominantly. He was amazing off the bench in the not the quarter, what am I talking about? In the Champions Cup final, where he
yeah,
seemed to make about 811 tackles and was basically held together with like sticky tape by the end. It was great in the top 14 final, unless I'm very much mistaken. And he's just slotted in really nicely, having not played in Mendoza. It's yeah, some end to the season for him.
yeah. I think I mean he's played brilliantly. I think I referenced before he was quality in that famous first ever win against the All Blacks in Parramatta, wasn't it? Where they played those
It
games
was
in COVID.
Parramatta, I think. Yeah,
I like the look. There was what I found. The other thing I found myself doing was looking at some of these Argentine players and thinking he might be getting a top 14 contract sometime soon. Like Molina in the second row was just really, really physical. He sat down Baptiste Pesenti at one point, although I think Pesenti kind of responded about a minute later and belted Matera. But um, Molina looked like a top 14 second rower in waiting. I think he's currently playing in Argentina. Um, and then the other one I thought was Bassan Velez, who's playing for Rovigo, so not even in the URC
oh,
Italian side. He's
that is a
in the
real
kind of
throwback.
he's in. Do you know what the league is called in Italy?
Oh, I'm going to know it when you tell me. I do. I have read this recently because I'm
It's called
going to Italy, and I had a look to see if there are any like pre-season fixtures in August around that neck of the woods. But I think it's a bit early.
it's called Serie A.
Excellent.
So Bassan Velez is playing in Serie A.
Do you
I
reckon they
wonder
have
if
those credits where was it Go Lazio, or was that no, it must have been. If it's Lazio, it must have been
yeah,
Serie A on like Channel 4,
yeah
halcyon days.
Sunday afternoons.
Yeah.
I wonder with Bassan, he was great, and their nines are all a bit. I guess it comes from their being good on the front foot, but I never quite know how good some of these Argentinian nines are. They're definitely better than Italian nines, but they can look very pedestrian sometimes, and then they can look electric. So he's a former sevens player, so he looks so sharp.
Mm.
Um, but then I kind of thought, I wonder if he would not get a top 14 contract because it's such a position of strength in France, and there's less desire to have like a non-GIF. Whereas I think quite a lot of teams still are still happy to kind of have a non-GIF as a big lump in the second row to just belt things.
Yeah,
Maybe he's
there's
gonna
not
maybe
many
a
of
little
them.
gig at don't know, taking over from Samuel Marquez at Beziers or kind of
You can see
upper
that like a
echelons
little
of
nice little pro day
yeah.
little 30 game season. Yeah, they were good. I can't question anything you've said there at all. I think just I guess turning attention to France,
Just one thing
Baptiste
on the
Saran's
game.
had a
Oh
good
yeah, go on, go
tour.
on. Yeah, he has.
He
I
is
thought he was brilliant.
so good.
Yeah,
Like he's like the best. He's like the best player on either side over the two tests, and he's come in as like fifth choice.
yeah.
It's so cool.
He's got 48 caps.
Yeah, like when
Yeah, when were they?
because I remember one of the first games we went to in France was Chiefs Bordeaux. I think in the Challenge Cup in like 2016,
Yeah.
like Christmas, around Christmas,
I think that might have been
and
Champions Cup.
might have been Champions Cup, but yeah, I think perhaps yeah, whatever it was. Um, and at that point, Saram was like he was kind of sort of new kid on the block. Maybe he played a bit, but he was still pretty fresh. So
Yeah.
that was so let's say that's 8 years ago. DuPont's been on the scene for first choice for what, 4 years, 5 years, a little bit longer. So
Yeah.
where did these 48 caps come from? Like I don't understand.
Yeah.
But anyway, another time. Sorry, I cut you off before you were about to finish something on the game.
No, it was about France. It was about the scrum. So with Colombe on, France looked very good. He
Yeah,
then goes off injured, and Bamba came on. He like gives away a penalty and then is properly on roller skates at scrum
got
time.
minced,
And
didn't
then
he?
he gets injured. So he has a bit of a stinker all round. But then miraculously, Georges-Henri Colombe comes back on,
Right.
which reminded me of the great, I've said it before and I'll say it again, my favourite moment in rugby in the last 5 years. Reminded me of John Arfoa being injured and then miraculously coming back on. You just said he was injured, Pat. Um,
I was going to ask you this because I watched this game, but I was a little bit like, particularly sort of either side of half time. I was a little bit in and out of the room watching it.
well, we all
So,
missed 7 minutes of it after about 46 minutes or whatever,
so,
where it cut
so,
out.
so Colom, I'm like, basically, what you said there was my observation, which is Colom looks so solid, as we said last week. He's then gone. Bamba gets absolutely obliterated. And then when I'm watching again, it's like 52 minutes and Colom's getting sin binned. Like I don't know like what has happened. So yeah, anyway, maybe some bit of skullduggery. We like George Henri Colom on the
I
pitch either which
assume,
way. So
yeah, I wonder if, so he must have gone off injured, but then I wonder if there's like, I was thinking this
is
is
it an
legit because he's a
HIA?
front rower and so it's fine for him to come back on. But then I was reminded of the fact that Steve Borthwick kicked off about the fact that our forward had been an injury sub and then miraculously came back on as a tactical sub.
Yeah, I think is there's something in that, isn't there? If you officially, I assume
Yeah,
that's what's happened. If you officially say that you tactically wanted to bring on your far inferior scrummager at 26 minutes in
yeah.
order to concede a penalty try, and then bring the other guy back on to get a yellow card, then it all
Well, they
makes
say Fabio Gautier's a maverick, so
the sort of thing you'd see on Mignoni's clipboard. That kind of
yeah.
greedy chess. Um, yeah, really, really good game. Do we
Couple of
before we
lucky
kind of
tries, I thought, or like clinical tries. Their Gaetan
charge down?
charge down, which is actually a brilliant bit of work from him. And actually some pretty good tactical kicking from Antoine Hastoy.
Mm,
The Atisogbe try when Delki gets done on the bounce, also a little bit lucky, but good finish
right
from
place.
Atisogbe, good chase. Um, interesting bit for me is that France had two English eligible centres, which is mental.
Yes, yes. Emilian Gaeton, famously Croydon's favourite son.
Yeah.
Quite often when I get the train through East Croydon, there's murals up of Gaeton. I can only assume that will grow further. That's pretty rogue, isn't it? I know these things happen, but it is quite a niche one.
Yeah. I mean, Antoine Frisch, I don't know how you end up being eligible for England, Ireland, and France. That's quite a good combo.
Yeah, really good going. Um,
So we wanted
before,
to we framed this tour, or you did a few weeks ago, is what are France trying to get out of it? How many of this squad are going to play again? So I guess the question is, who are the future superstars that have been identified? And actually, how many of these guys are going to end up playing in the Autumn International Six Nations? What are your thoughts on findings that Fabien Galtier will take away from this? It could be tactical ones as well, like not just player based ones.
Yeah, well, I think first and foremost there might be some restrictions as to how these teams tour in future, I dare say. Um, Beyond that, I was thinking about this. I think just cover very briefly. We missed off that France did beat Uruguay in the week as well,
Yeah.
which I saw bits of. The standout moment was Solo Tuolangi running on in from like 60 meters,
I
which was
haven't seen any of
absolutely
that, but I did hear
oh,
about it. Yeah.
it's ridiculous. It is the most. We quite often use the sort of metaphor of like the overgrown kid at school who's battering through people. It is the absolute, like, it is that. It is so good. Yeah, real treat for after this. So look, I kind of think
I
in a
thought he
weird
looked
way,
quite pedestrian. I thought he looked
yeah,
off the pace against Argentina. Maybe because he played midweek, that might be
he
it. But
played he
he
played
didn't have the
3 games
impact
in
they
a week.
wanted, and they looked pretty underpowered once Colom went off, or when he
Yeah,
wasn't on the field.
I think his ceiling is so high, and I think
Yeah,
it's easy to forget how young he still is. It is freakish, to be
yeah,
honest. But
that's
in
fair.
terms of who are the guys stood out, I don't know how much we've learned from this. I'd say the big winners in terms of just performances, like I think Saran puts himself in with a shout of their second choice nine going forward, 100%. That
Yeah, I mean,
experience and a
how
bit
bad
of
is Legarec's injury? We don't. How long is he going to be out for?
we don't know, but like the form comes and goes. So I think he was great. I think a couple of the other guys who are really good throughout are probably still a little bit far down the pecking order in Barlow and Hastoy. I thought they were both really like solid. Hastoy's had a fantastic end to the season.
I
He
think.
doesn't look out of place.
Yeah, I think in terms of what Fabian Galte is going to take away from this, I think he secures himself that third choice. He re-secures himself that third choice fly half berth and they'll just keep Ramos at fullback. I think the way Barre played and what Melvin Jaminet did means that I would say you'd want to be keeping Toma
Yeah,
Ramos at 15 quite a lot more than the
yeah, I think
trade-off is
so.
yeah, I'd keep Hastoy. I mean, Barlow, to think that fourth choice if Booger is
He's
fit is
brilliant.
just
He's a
mental.
brilliant player. But I suppose on the like the real new guys, the ones
Nucci,
that Nucci has been, I think without absolutely kind of tearing the house down, he's very, very good.
I thought he was France's
Um,
best player on Saturday, second
did you?
test. Yeah, by quite some way,
Interesting.
I thought. He was
He sort of,
physical, he was involved in everything. Looked like he took on a lot of responsibility. Quite like him as an eight, as like a Gregor Aldrich style
yeah,
eight.
yeah, he fits the bill, doesn't he? As someone who can slot in anywhere across like a Gautier back row. Like
Yeah,
it's pretty all action. There's a lot of hard graft in there. There's not, there's no one in there who's like, if you look at Jalanche, Cross, I guess Aldrich's a bit more of like your classical number eight, but
he gets through
these
so much
guys
work.
do these guys do like the works, don't they? There's not
Yeah,
like it's not like a shiny open side. So I think Nucci's looking good. Probably makes the wider squads for Autumn Nations, Six Nations. Um, I think the two young Po guys, Atisogbe and Gaeton. I think Gaeton probably makes it. Atisogbe, I think the depth at wing is so good, but he just showed again without these wildly standout performances. There was just so many really good bits, both tests, like attack, defense. There's a brilliant.
high ball
When I
stuff.
first turned high ball, like he plucked one out of the air on Saturday that was way above his head. Like
He's getting
he kind of
clattered from all angles.
it was that there was the way he kind of bundled over in the first test. It's just those glimpses of someone who clearly, without going too far, sort of has it all or appears to
Yeah,
have it all. So I think, I think Gaiton, maybe Atsoba make the squad. I think the big one who will challenge for a starting berth is Fritsch.
Yeah, I was going to say Frisch because
Um,
of the form of Dante. I think he looks a better player as as an international 12 than Mofana, doesn't he?
I just think, yeah, you said it. Like it just feels like whatever game he plays in, he does really well and has a similar game. And he's got so much to his game as well. Like he's
Yeah,
big and powerful. He defends well. He's got some lovely angles and
yeah.
hands. Like he's, yeah, just I don't know. Feels odd that he hasn't been snapped up before now, but good on him. I think he's probably the one I think vaults into kind of most contention for me.
And I
What about
think
you, Annette?
Colomb, I think,
Cologne.
yeah,
Oh,
because
100%. I mean, he was
because
starting. Oh, sorry, he was reserve tight head or on the bench tight head at the end of the Six Nations, wasn't he?
I think was that because Aldeguerri got injured though? Because
I don't
Colomb
know.
only has three caps
Yeah,
or four now.
perhaps.
But yeah,
I think he'll challenge for the. He's so good.
I was just about to say that. I think Winnie Antonio is getting on now. And also, let's not forget, he essentially retired after the World
Mm,
Cup and kind of hung around because there wasn't that much depth. The depth behind Colomb is worrying, given how Bamba
yeah,
roller skated. They need a little bit more of that out of Aldeguerri. I think Aldeguerri forms, fills that kind of international level tight head rather than high quality, kind of like a
dominant.
for years, kind of Thomas Francis was of a nature that meant he could hold up just about an international scrum, whereas someone like a Will Stewart perhaps might not be able to, or you know other guys like Xander Fagerson is a good example, like someone that, well, certainly as he was developing, was just about good enough to kind of be international standard, without your team getting embarrassed at scrum time. Basically, that's what you're looking for, and I think Aldeguerri is just about that. Maybe his
Yeah, I
penalty
suppose the
count's not.
slight difference with Aldeguerri is that he's no spring chicken, is he? Like Thomas Francis towards the end of his before he went to Provence was looking pretty, he was very, very competent scrummager. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
someone like Fagerson's a good comparison, but he gets through so much round the park as well.
yeah.
Whereas Aldeguerri's he comes
Bit of
across
a
as a bit
penalty
old
machine.
school, just sort of a lot of shrugging. Um,
I think it's been a good tour for Mikel Guillard as well. Guy
yeah,
that I'd seen a little bit of for
he was
Leon,
good on
mainly in the
Saturday.
back row. Yeah, I thought he was really good on Saturday. And let's be honest, he's done quite well out of some of the scandals. Because he's perhaps the kind of loose headlock jumped above um
Yeah.
jumped above Oridu, and perhaps as a kind of back row option, kind of the Flamont mold of could slot in at six.
Yeah, he looked good. I thought he looked quite good ball in hand as well, actually. He gets himself about.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that.
he's still super young as well.
Yeah, it's not definitely some, I don't know. I think maybe at the start, yeah, you're kind of hoping for like an Atisogbe hat trick or
Yeah,
I don't, but it's not really how international rugby works. But I think pretty much the guys we thought, and some of the blokes who maybe were a little bit last chance saloon to kind of keep their name in the hat for future squads have done a really good job.
yeah,
In let's not forget, like pretty decent side and in some not great circumstances as well.
yeah. You got to
All
wonder how
right.
much you think of emotionally how that impacted France
Mm.
compared to the emotionally charged kind of Pablo Matera stuff for Argentina. So yeah,
Yeah,
would have been
the
quite a long week, you'd imagine.
emotionally charged mullet.
Yeah.
Should we round off the international? I was say round off the international season, but we've actually got one more game before we can say the season's done, and that is because France under 20s put in one hell of a performance in Cape Town
Yeah.
on Sunday. I've managed to catch a decent bit of this. I think you watched most
I
of it
watched
before
it.
the football, possibly.
I watched it on my phone, kind of with the football build-up going on, while there was a bit of a lull between the tennis and the football, I kind of managed to watch it on my phone. So yeah, it was
Just to start things. Last week you were talking about Kerry Caraba, and you're
oh
like,
my
"Oh, is
God.
it? Have we like? Is it just is there a bit too much hype?" I think you directly asked me to keep an eye out and get my thoughts, and then I watched it, and 2.5 minutes in, he's just like galloping over, having picked one up on the back of a ruck,
Yeah.
and it's like, yeah, he's having an impact pretty early here.
I think I mean I kind of slightly got fully on the Matisse Castro Ferreira hype train from seeing him in the first under 26 nations game I watched. And Quere Caraba was good in that. And I quite liked him. But I've not we've seen Castro Ferreira since, and he scored a lot of tries in the top 14. Whereas we've not seen Quere Caraba, and then he might be even better, which is
Yeah,
just mental,
he
given
looks
how much
pretty special.
how much I fell in love with Matisse Castro Ferreira. I think Quere Caraba could be on another level.
Yeah, he
And
looked
the
class.
player, but again, the two best players for France were him and Hugo Royce. I think Royce, his goal kicking, I think, could be a real difference in the final, actually, because he's been slotting some tough kicks. Just generally, just a couple of crossfield kicks. The pass that he just it looks like one of the things he just lobbed back inside, but when you slow it down, you realise is that
Amazing.
luck and he's just got lucky, or is it just unbelievable skill and timing? But for the Gambini try, the second one, um, I think Massa was very good again up front. Lino Julien played tight head in this game, which was interesting, switching across from loose head. He was excellent around the park. It looked great at scrum time as well. I mean, it was just a mental game. It was 14-24 after 19 minutes, which is
Yeah,
just wild.
five tries in the first 16 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
Good tries as well.
Yeah. It's interesting that New Zealand had even right up to the last minute, had more possession and stuff like that. I think France's defense was pretty good. The centers defended pretty well. Malater, who got the yellow, I've realised the player he is. I think last week I said he was kind of a bit like a Francois Cross. I think he's actually currently more like a kind of Jamie Ritchie, just kind of gangly but surprisingly physical, chop tackles, gets his head in the rucks, just a bit of a nuisance in a good way. It's
Because
quite nice
Malate
about
he got
got sin
binned.
binned, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
As a kind of that was when they were getting marched over the try line.
yeah.
Maul defense was the one area I think that they had a bit of New Zealand. Well, Maul attack was where New Zealand had a little bit of joy compared to pretty much everywhere else, because they largely got destroyed in a way. Like some
Mm,
of the France skill was just phenomenal. Yeah, it's
yeah.
just sick.
And I think pretty amazing. I mean, they obviously won the group game, didn't they, by a point, last minute kick with all that kind
Yeah,
of brilliant shambles going on. But I don't think like I can't profess to following the under 20s wildly closely, but I don't think anyone was expecting that sort of result. One, against New Zealand, and two, just given the fact that France have okay, so I think they're going for their fourth under 20s championship in a row,
yeah.
which would match New Zealand, which is pretty
But
cool.
that goes back quite a long way because I think they missed 2 years because of COVID.
Okay.
Both games, I didn't see loads of quality from New Zealand. Like the fly half, you think of a young Kiwi fly half, you think this guy's going to be electric. But
Thought their nines at Pledger,
yeah,
look,
he
he
was
was
good. He's
unreal.
rapid. He gassed
So
Furte.
quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Although
is he
Furte
is
ran one in
seriously
from
fast.
range, didn't he? And he looked
Yeah.
rapid in that. Um, did you catch any of the England Ireland game?
I only saw a couple of clips of it. Apparently it was an absolute cracker.
Yeah, it was. I've seen extended highlights. Hugh Gavin for Ireland, the 12, he looks so good. But the story here was England absolutely obliterated Ireland at scrum time. Like basically every scrum was a penalty from the extended highlights anyway. Which is Asher Opoku for jaw at loose head. Whenever you see a loose head going forward, you're always like, is that a bit of an angle there? I think maybe that's just kind of what it is. So it'd be interesting if I don't actually know which side Lino Julien is better at. My hunch would be he's a loose head by trade, and kind of the injury to Awad means that he's playing tight head. So it'd be interesting to see how he goes against Opoku for jaw, who seems to be tearing it up at loose head. Junior Kapoku,
ridiculous.
Looks really, really powerful. Just looks like
Yeah.
a really horrible person to tackle. And the back three look pretty electric and just complete players, like great hands, great kick chase, great under the high ball. And England have got their own all action hooker. I think it's Chris Wright, somebody right. But so it'd be interesting to see him go up against Barnaby Massa, who's got an all-court game as well.
Yeah, I'm quite looking forward to trying to find a corner to watch that, because I really enjoyed the Six Nations. The England-Ireland game, the Six Nations, we mentioned it, was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And this sounded cracking as well. I know, again, far wiser and more storied rugby commentators than myself were saying that before this game that England's pack appears to be bigger, fatter, heavier, more aggressive than anything else in the tournament. So it'll be interesting to see what happens on. I assume it's Sunday.
It's 6 p.m. on Friday. 6
Friday?
p.m. UK time. Yeah.
Quite a short turnaround, isn't it, from a Sunday game? Maybe it doesn't count in the under-20s. Yeah, should be pretty cool to watch that one.
Yeah, I think be interesting to see how that pack does look massive for England. And they've obviously got their own kind of unbelievable flankers in Carnduff and Pollock, who just seem to do everything.
Carnduff is so good.
Yeah. He played in that game at Quins that I went to, the Leicester game. He was really good. I was like, who the hell is this bloke? But yeah, I think it'll be interesting. There's no Carbono. Carbono is injured, as is Bosmaran, who is a very good winger, but I imagine he's slightly more replaceable.
I like Bosmaran. I think he's really sharp.
Bosmaran, yeah. But Carbono is a big loss, you'd think. He's obviously developed quite a nice little relationship. But Suvaby, I thought, was pretty good against Wales. So they do have a bit of game time with him as well. So that I don't know enough about under-20s rugby, but it'd be interesting to see how that pack holds up against England's pack, and just how much whether Castro Ferreira and Quere Careba can dominate quite in the way that they have done so far, because they just look unstoppable at times.
Yeah. Should be a cracker. Right, we'll be back in just a sec with news on some fixtures mayhem. Okay, so it's been an exciting week, not just for rugby on the pitch, games, seasons, tours being finalised, but just as we're finishing one season, the movements for the 24-25 season have really started to take shape. And last week, I think between Tuesday and Thursday, give or take, there started to be some real action on quite a nerdy rugby WhatsApp group we're in, as first I think Pro Day and top 14 fixtures were announced, followed by the Champions Cup and Challenge Cup. And it's always a fun time of year because it means starting to have a little dig around as to as to maybe what could be, what could we go and have a look at. Got friends who are Quins fans, Leicester fans, and so on. What's taken your eye? What's got you excited
The
for
the
the next
first thing
season of watching?
the first thing to notice, Richard, that I noticed when I was having another look properly, I have to say the Champions Cup fixtures caught me by surprise because we had the kind of announcement of the pools last week, and I was expecting. Well, I think we said last week it was kind of back end of the summer that we get the fixtures confirmed. But we've actually got the dates and times confirmed already, which
Yeah.
is very useful. And as I kind of said at the top of the show, Leicester have bagged the dream away trips of, well, depending on how you look at it, of Toulouse away and Bordeaux away, whereas your boys, Exeter Chiefs, I think you were kind of disappointed, but also financially happy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go and watch them play the Sharks away. Belfast, I've never been to Ravenhill, and we've got some friends in Belfast. That's quite maybe a nice little excuse to get out there for a trip. Although it would make getting to the Tom Barada in San Sebastian the next day quite difficult. So, um, unless there's a direct flight between the two. Yeah, as an Exeter fan, I think probably, probably good in terms of progressing through the group and good in terms of club finances, because you'd think they'd probably sell out both Bordeaux and Toulouse at home. And Rob, maybe we can nip down for one little pre-Christmas trip down memory lane. But yeah, I mean, last year they got there Toulon and Bayonne, so can't complain too much.
Yeah.
Can't complain too much there. The I've got
Twins
to
have also
say,
landed 2 French away games, which is quite cool, even though they seem to play Racing every year, we were saying.
although not confirmed where that is being played yet,
Interesting.
owing to the fact that Racing tend to like to um, kind of double book their games with big gigs and things like that, and end up playing in places like Auxerre. But it's all cool. That, arguably quite exciting as if you're a Quins fan, like you might end up somewhere a bit niche. Who knows?
I mean, yeah, there's some pretty good. I think Bristol have also are the other ones that have got some pretty good away games, haven't they? They've got potentially Claremont away, and I think they've got La Rochelle as well, haven't they?
I think you could be right, yeah. And then they're playing Benetton, but at home, or was that
Yeah,
another group?
yeah, no,
Yeah.
you're right, yeah.
I've got to
Well, the
say,
go on, mate.
just sorry, the Challenge Cup, the two. So I think the two fixtures that really stand out for me, um, if you can get tickets, I think if you're a Gloucester fan, you're potentially in for a hell of a month over the winter. So and I assume if you're a Gloucester fan, like you'll get a certain allocation of tickets. But Van's first ever European home game will be against Gloucester, week before Christmas. And then I think
Saturday afternoon as well. Ideal time.
yeah, and then they round off with the early kickoff on Sunday in Bayonne.
Yeah.
I mean, what more could you want? You get to top and tail the west coast of France. I mean, we've not been to the Rabine, and judging by some of the stories I heard earlier, it might be difficult to ever get along there, at least this season. But that I think that is amazing. The other thing on Van is that so you wait for however long for your first ever European game. Do you know where it is?
Oh God, I've just seen, yeah, in Georgia.
In Georgia.
Nice.
Straight in the deep end. Tbilisi in December. Like,
Oh,
I assume it's in
oh,
Tbilisi. That might
it
be.
must be, yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's a pretty cool set of fixtures, I think.
So I was being the real rugby hipsters that we are, Richard. I was obviously looking to tie in What Champions Cup games could you tie in with Pro D2 games? Now, I selfishly looked at Leicester because that's kind of the big games for me. Um, so I kind of looked at. I think I would go with in the first round. So you've got Friday evening in all probability. It could be Thursday. We don't know yet. Dax versus Biarritz. So I'd fly to Biarritz Airport, get to Dax probably by train. It's not far, and then I would probably try and get to Bordeaux from Dax and have a day in Bordeaux on Saturday before the UBB versus Leicester game on Sunday afternoon. That was one option. However, I have looked elsewhere, although you've thrown a spanner in the works saying that Racing might not play at La Défense. Now, trying to find Pro D2 games near Paris is tricky. However, there is every chance, and we don't know the fixtures yet, but in the National, Massy are a suburb of Paris, club with a proud history, and a very good academy. I think they've produced Woki, Mathieu Bastereau. I think Leo Barre might have come from there as well.
Yeah, I think there was a
real,
big...
real long line of top quality French internationals have come from there. So they are in a suburb of Paris. So you could, around Christmas time, that's also an option for Sarri's fans the following weekend who are playing Stade Francais. So you could, again, look at whether Massy have got a game on just before round 2. Similarly, a bit of an issue with the third and fourth rounds of the top 14. Not a lot of games in and around the host French sides. However, for those Quins fans going out to Toulon, very near Toulon is Hyères, which, as things stand, has a national team with a very cool badge. So you could fly in and out of Marseille. I don't think there are flights to Toulon from the UK, are there, these days? But it is Toulon Airport, that's the name of the airport. So get yourself to Hyères on the Saturday and then Toulon at the Mayol hosting Quins on the Sunday. That'd be quite a tasty trip. And then the final one, round 4, I've again also looked at the Leicester one because it does finish at the Stade Ernest Vallon. The one that I lined up was kind of any of Agen, Montauban, or Colomiers on the Friday night, whichever one, and then you kind of hot-foot it to Toulouse for the Saturday, and then 3:15 kickoff at wherever they decide to host it. I think would be quite a cool little trip. Any upgrades on that, Rich? Are you happy with those little itineraries?
No, I'm very happy with all of them. So on National fixtures, they've been released somewhere, but I can't find them because Massy are one of the clubs that have actually put their fixtures out. I saw this earlier in the week. So what weekend are Leicester? Oh, sorry, what was the Paris weekend? Quins.
It was the 7th and the 14th of December. So actually, Sarries are on the 15th, and Racing are at home to Quins at 8 p.m. on the 7th.
Well, unfortunately, Massy are away one week at Tarbes and the next week down in Hyères. However, you do have Suresnes, which if...
so Glasgow fans could go to Massy v Hyères on the Saturday ahead of Toulon v Glasgow on Sunday. There you go.
Job done. But you've also got Suresnes in Paris, whose ground is actually very near La Défense.
Yeah.
Who have a saxophone on their logo. So, yeah, I'm trying to find where they've been released, like centrally, but I can only see those. The other fixtures that caught my attention, just slightly away from the Champions Cup.
Yeah, we were pandering to
the golden
just generic English rugby fans there. The real hipsters are here for just the French rugby back to backs, and I've got quite a few nice ones there.
So I've got one back to back, but the golden ticket is the first round of the top 14, and I've mentioned him twice already, but it's Van in their first top 14 game against Toulouse. Yeah. So Van, I saw a tweet from Van earlier that they started selling their season tickets. So the Rabin holds about 12,000. Started selling their season tickets, servers crashed. I don't know how he's got these figures, but our man, the main man, Digestifs, then put a tweet out and said, I don't know where he's got these numbers from, but it's pretty rogue. Apparently 50,000 people tried to buy 9,000 tickets. The population of Van is 51,000. And they've stopped sales at 9,000 with the intention of having, give or take, 3,000 tickets available to buy on match days. So it's going to be a real squeeze trying to get in there. And I assume hence why they were looking at getting some, maybe getting a game to Rennes for the big occasion. But that will be unbelievable. The other ones I've seen.
Just on that weekend, Rich, you could do a double header. You say that Angoulême to Van is quite a long way. So maybe not, but you could do Angoulême on the Friday. If you can't get your tickets to Van, you can roll the dice trying to get tickets to Stade Marcel de Flandre for quite a tasty game for round one, a repeat of the
barrage. Yeah.
Repeat the barrage, but reverse venue. La Rochelle hosting Toulon could be quite a tasty game as well.
Yeah, I guess quick disclaimer on that is that Stade Marcel de Flandre and Stade de la Rabine are probably going to be the two most difficult places to get a ticket in the whole of France. So if you do heed that advice and do manage to get tickets, do get in touch as to how you managed to do it and who you had to pay / do favors for / kill. So the other one that's just a bit of a niche one, which is if you look for a little pre-Christmas trip, weekend of around I think it's Saturday the 20th, you could go to what I'm looking to term the sort of beach versus mountains double header derby, which is will be Stade Niçois versus Grenoble, obviously, followed by Toulon versus Pau back to back. So I thought that was quite cool.
Which weekend are you on there?
December, yeah.
Oh, nice. The ones I was looking at, you could do a triple header.
Oof.
On the last weekend of September. You do Biarritz versus Grenoble on the Friday. 1 hour or so on the train to Pau the next day, who host Stade Francais, finishing it all off with another kind of hour or two train the next day on to Toulouse for Toulouse versus UBB for a repeat of the final. So that could be three very tasty, in not just rugby fixtures, but very tasty food-wise. Three places, very good culinary. And if you didn't want to do the Pau bit, you could just go to buy on Montpellier.
Lovely.
On Saturday as well. The second, so round two, actually, I'm going to go the cut. If you want some late, when the school holidays are over and you want some nice sun, and basically it'll be baking hot, you could do Friday the 13th of September, Nice are hosting Sax V, and then you could hot foot it over to Toulon, who are hosting Casse the next day, or you could do Aix-en-Provence to Toulon. That will be some scorching weather on the second weekend. So that is actually the second round of the top 14 as well. And then the other tasty one I found was Agen against Colomiers. So a little bit of a derby. On Friday, the 25th of October, Agen hosts Colomiers. It's a little bit of a local derby. And then you go on to Toulouse the next day for Toulouse versus Toulon, which seem like two pretty good fixtures. I'll say like back end of October. It's probably still quite warm down in that sort of area as well. For a little, that's probably half term though, isn't it? So anyone wanting to take their kids for the full Jet Van Set pastis red wine
experience,
gout experience, yeah.
Excellent, cool. Well, I think we'll I guess one of the main reasons for us doing this and rambling on was to try and draw attention to where it's possible, highlight any flights and things like that. So we'll be sure to get plenty of this stuff up on Instagram, on X, on whatever else you want to see it on. Give us a follow, and all of the tips will be there. So we're like not blowing our own trumpet. We've done a few of these trips now. I think we've got it down to a reasonably fine art and been able to put together a little weekend itinerary. So yeah, if you listen to this and you're not sure, give us a shout. Happy to point you in the right direction.
We may
E.g.,
even
not
over
La
this,
Rochelle.
yeah, over the summer we may even do a kind of more deeper dive and kind of do those ones in a bit more depth. So if you've got any kind of places that you want to go, we can kind of let us know, and we can kind of flesh out a potential trip as to how you can make it as good as possible, or cram in as much rugby badgering and action as possible.
Love it. Should we come back and finish with some Petit Fours, little digestif?
Yeah.
Rob, I gather you might be a little bit light on extras today. Is that
I'm
is that
on a
correct?
diet, Richard. Yeah. Not been able to exercise recently, so I've had to cut back on the post meal chocolates and 40% liqueur.
Well, okay. Fortunately, I've been imbibing aggressively, and I've got a few bits here. So we spoke about the under-20s. It would be rude not to shout out. So apparently this year is the first ever. So it's the women's under-20s Summer Six Nations series.
Right.
And it turns out, perhaps unsurprisingly, that the French teams are looking like they're going to have quite the dynasty, to put it mildly. So just to talk you through the three results. So first game, they beat Wales 57-12. All right, so far so good.
Yeah.
They then they beat Scotland 67-10. And then big game against England, Stadio Sergio Lafrancini, which is where they've all taken place. Half time, it was 14-29 in favour of France. And France won 72-21.
Jesus Christ.
So I actually saw, I can't remember who it was, but I saw someone, I think one of the rugby journalists say, if you want to lump on a significant bet for a team to dominate women's rugby over the next few years, French would appear to be a good option, because that seems like fairly one-way traffic, to put it mildly.
The full women's England team probably hasn't conceded 79 points in the last like 3 Six Nations, probably.
I wouldn't have thought so. So yeah, that was pretty cool. On fixtures, there's a couple of really, like we spoke a little bit about. So Biarritz, Bayonne, they've got a pre-season game. Two other pre-season games or three actually of note to flag. One is which was really cool. Stade Montois de Marsan playing Toulouse at the back end of August. 30th of August, Lyon are playing Racing at Bourg-en-Bresse.
Nice.
Which is quite a nice touch, getting out to real kind of heartland ground there. And then there are tickets available. I think it could be the same day actually. So La Rochelle are putting on like a full kind of friendly day, where they've got earlier in the day, they've got the 2010 I think promotion winning team playing the 2008 winning team or something like that. The specifics do slightly I have slightly lost, but yeah, basically they've got it's a proper day out. There are tickets available, which I'm literally looking at it right now. If you happen to be on the Atlantic coast, then get involved.
Is that the Marcel de Flandre?
It is, yeah.
Could be your only chance.
could be your only chance, but it's either that day or another one. So the week before, they've got like a sevens tournament, and after one of them, they've got a proper pre-season game, which is La Rochelle Po.
Nice.
So pretty, like, could be a pretty good day out that. So yeah, some wicked pre-season fixtures. Seen the French sevens kit for the Olympics? Is a bit rogue.
I think I have, but I can't really remember it now.
Kind of blue, well, obviously it's blue, red, white, but it doesn't look much like a French rugby kit, but it is quite cool. And Antoine Dupont does look immense, as you would expect. There are a couple of bits of additional rugby footage coming out of like little documentaries. So Canal Plus have done one for the Toulouse's run-in.
Nice.
And Union Bordeaux-Bègles have put together a little 16-minute little video, well, just a little video on their run-in, which the closing still of is poor old Maxime Lucu looking distraught on the deck. But it is called Dans les yeux de UBB.
Oh, I did see that on Instagram. Yeah. It was almost like just that name nearly got me to watch the full video while I was at work. For those that don't know, our intro is Dans les yeux d'Emily, which is a French rugby song. So it's you quite often see in French rugby social media stuff kind of Dans les yeux de, because Dans les yeux d'Emily is so
universal.
French rugby.
Yeah, it's the sort of, I don't know, like the Sweet Caroline sort of thing, but just
essentially, but just way better,
but just not totally shit.
Yeah.
And then the final thing, you've just started a new job, haven't you?
Yeah.
Are you still in probation?
Yeah.
So technically you could be after a new job at some point if it doesn't go well.
I mean, the way it's going, Richard, it's looking likely, yeah.
So you have to get your submission, your application in, little video presentation by tomorrow evening. So by the time this goes out on Wednesday morning, you'll have a few hours to get it sorted. But Aviron Bayonnaise are recruiting to cast Potica, the horse mascot.
Oh, I saw something about that. I didn't stop and read it properly to see what was actually going on.
And
hang on, why did they need a new one? The old guy get too loose? Did he
I don't know if he got too loose.
Railing or something?
I don't know, but this does come just after the Fête de Bayonne, which I saw some footage of, which looked absolute
carnage, yeah.
Some of it good, some of it on the cusp, I'd say. So a couple of slightly unsavory things that might happen when there's like that many people getting that drunk for that period of time. But yeah, so just to confirm, we've spoken about this mascot before. He's a pretty lively character. The three photos on the application are one of the, I don't know if it's a he or her, whatever, but of the horse. One is just him, just jollily walking along. The second is of the horse getting crowd surfed. The third is of the horse getting abseiled into the ground. So you're gonna have to have a certain level of fitness. You can't be too heavy because you're gonna crush the fans. And you've got to be pretty wild as well. So if that's you, potakerberia@gmail.com, get your videos in to buy on, and you could be the next buy on horse.
Amazing.
Probably a good note to end it, I'd say. But we'll keep an eye out. And we'll keep an eye out if we know why the original horse got put in jail as well.
Let us know if you submit an application as well.
Alrighty. We've been Rosbiff Rugby. Give us a follow. Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. Subscribe. We'll be back next week after what I think, is it officially the end now, the under-20s of?
I think so, yeah.
I think we're going to have to call it a day somewhere, aren't we?
The top 14 team of the year will be finally ready.
We'll be there next week. We've only had the best part of 10 months to think about it. So join us then. In the meantime, I've been Richard. That has been Rob. We've been Rosbiff Rugby. Au revoir.
Au revoir.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
You're a startup founder. Finding product market fit is probably your number one priority. But to land bigger customers, you also need security compliance. Obtaining your SOC 2 or ISO 27001 certification can open those big doors, but they take time and energy, pulling you away from building and shipping. That's where Vanta comes in. Vanta is the all-in-one compliance solution helping startups get audit-ready and build a strong security foundation quickly and painlessly. Vanta automates the manual security tasks that slow you down, helping you streamline your audit. The platform connects you with trusted experts to build your program, auditors to get you through audits quickly, and a marketplace for essentials like pen testing. So whether you're closing your first deal or gearing up for growth, Vanta makes compliance easy. Join over 8,000 companies, including Y Combinator and Techstar startups who trust Vanta. For a limited time, get $1,000 off Vanta at vanta.com/simplify. That's VANTA.com/simplify for $1,000 off.